Hijra is not an Arabic term, it's a Persian term. All trans people are not Hijras, but I always knew I wanted to be a woman. Now, is that a reason to celebrate? Yes, it is a reason to celebrate.
Hello and welcome to Buzz by the Bay. We bring you this very special episode from the Trans Cafe in Andheri, an inclusive space for all. And our guest today is the owner of this cafe. She is a Mumbai-born, brave and resilient transgender woman, a passionate crusader for diversity and inclusion, and also happens to be one of the petitioners in the marriage equality case against the Govt of India. Very pleased to have with us Zainab Patel. We're going to talk to her about her journey, the many battles she's fought, her many triumphs and achievements.
Thank you so much, Anushka, for inviting me to come and speak to you all. And a very happy Pride Month to all of you viewers. This is a great opportunity for us to interact with you and to put forward our viewpoints.
Yes, it is actually towards the end of Pride Month, but inclusion and diversity should be important every month. And I love this cafe. It's so artistic. It's very bright and cheerful. When did you open this and what was your inspiration?
A couple of years ago, when I was in my own private sector job, I came to the realization that if you really wanted to work on inclusion matters the most for the most marginalized. And the people who I work with in the cafe are essentially people who are economically, socially, and educationally backward. And constantly when people ask us this question that you transgenders should do something different, give up begging, give up sex work, give up dancing. And unfortunately, the very people who leave us out of the discussion want us to find a solution for bringing us back on the table. That's when we said, let's start a cafe. So that's when we came to this place. It was quite a bit of a struggle first to find space which they wanted to give out to trans people, knowing very well that this is a trans-run enterprise. People asked us questions like, what will you do? What will we do in a cafe? We'll serve food and coffee. But I think there was a lot of hesitation on renting our space to it. All of the artwork which you see around the cafe is done by the staff of the cafe.
Oh, really?
Yes. And the idea is the trans community here will serve anyone who comes into this place with love, dignity, and value for money food. Because we truly believe in mainstreaming. And that's the idea about having the Trans Cafe.
Wonderful. And it seems to be doing well since I've been here. There's a lot of people walking in. You hire only transgender people?
No, we keep it open to all, but our preference is to work for the community. So we don't hire people, we make them our business partners.
Okay, that's interesting.
So interestingly, our staff will own the cafe in a period of time. First, it started off horribly. People didn't come in. For 3 months, we did not know what we were doing.
Were they scared? Or?
People were scared. I think there were just some. And now you have children and elders and women, men, LGBT people, everyone coming in over here.
It's a wonderful social enterprise.
And we purposely kept the doors not tinted because we wanted people on the street to see in.
Right.
We wanted them to experience that the world is the same outside and inside. Yeah. Perhaps it's a little more colorful here.
No, there's nothing to hide. There's no.
Yes, there's actually nothing to hide.
Yeah. So coming to a few basic terms, right? You belong to the Hijrah community. Yes. Now, I want, for the sake of our audience, sometimes there's confusion. So are Hijras essentially transgenders or are they intersex people? If you could just clarify a certain.
Okay, I'm going to try and give you a very basic idea. Transgender is nothing but a Western term. Basically to signify anyone whose sense of gender doesn't match with the sex that they were assigned at birth. For example, me, when I was born, I was assigned male sex at birth. That meant that when the doctors looked at my genitals, they said it was male. Over a period of time, I realized that my sense of gender doesn't match with my sex and hence I identified as a woman. Some of us undergo surgery, take hormones, do feminizing and similarly masculinizing for people who are born in a female. We have a term in India. The original ethnic Indian term was Kinnai.
Okay.
It's a Sanskrit word. With rapid Islamization and basically intent coming in from the Middle East, from the Arab world, we had another term called the Hijrah, which was introduced. Now, Hijrah is not an Arabic term, it's a Persian term.
Okay, it's Persian.
So someone who's completed a journey.
Oh.
So for us, it is someone, so like when you look at the Islamic calendar, it's called Hijri, the year that the Prophet made the journey from Mecca to Medina.
Okay.
So in the sense, the Hijrah is supposed to be someone who's done their journey of self-identification.
Right.
So when I say I belong to the Hijrah community, it's a community just like any other community. It has its own set of rules. It has its own hierarchy. It has its own penalties. Like I'll give you a small idea about what a penalty looked like. Several years ago, there was a fine for a Hijrah to basically drive a vehicle or a motorcycle.
Really?
Because these were considered extremely manly activity. And because you give up your identity as neither a man or a woman to become Hijrah, you're not supposed to take that off. So Hijras are a close-knit society. Transgender is an umbrella term. Hijra is a term which is used extensively across Pakistan, India, Bangladesh because of our shared history. Most of them are perhaps people who are sex assigned male at birth. Now, there are some people who may be born with intersex conditions. Intersex conditions happen because of various reasons. There are 30 odd different types of it. It could be chromosomal, etc., so on and so forth.
Reproductive.
Now, anything that has been seen as a deviation from the norm is hallowed in India, or in our culture, right? You find something that's slightly different and say, okay, keep them apart. In order to keep certain things hallowed, people who were born with some intersex condition were immediately given up by their parents because of social stigma, lack of access to medical care. And these considered because they were thought that they were naturally blessed by God, so they got a special place within the Hijra community. So this is a basic description. All trans people are not Hijras because it's a specific community, but all Hijras are trans people. Yes.
Got it. Understood. And mostly Hijras are born male, but their gender identity is female, but some are intersex. So not all are intersex.
Yes.
Okay, that's important to clarify. So, coming to your journey and the battles you fought. Now, you have been a petitioner in quite a few lawsuits against, a petitioner in the Supreme Court against the Government of India. So in 2013, you petitioned for recognition of a third gender, right? And equal rights. And do you find things have changed and improved since then? And if you could tell us a little bit about that case.
I think let's look at it from this perspective. In any given country, any citizen is able to live there permanently, set up and do business, find employment, be counted and be visible. Imagine that my community had to go to court in the mid-2000s to find out even if they had the right to vote. And I think it took us a lot of courage for us to go to court because we were such a small, minuscule minority in that sense, visible, demonized, stigmatized, and yet we were never a vote bank priority for anyone. I wish there was a politician or bureaucrat who said, let me work on reforms. And because we did not see that, we had to go to court to ask for just equal rights. We didn't ask for special rights. And we said that we as a community are socio-economically, politically, historically marginalized. Do something to bring us out of this.
So it's not that these are progressive judgments. It's something that was necessary. It's basic rights. But have things changed? I mean, employment opportunities. See, you're one of the fortunate people who has worked with multinational, international companies. You work with the United Nations as well. And there are other prominent people from the transgender community, the mayor in Chhattisgarh, Madhubai Kinnar, and there's Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi. But for the most of them, have things changed?
I think the answer, as you said rightly, even you were struggling with naming people, and I think we can count them on digits. I don't think it surpasses double digits. So in a country of billion plus people, and if you say 500,000 trans people as per the census, you have just a double digit number of trans people who made it successfully. Now, is that a reason to celebrate? Yes, it is a reason to celebrate. It's a reason to celebrate because these people have come out to do their own hard work. In spite of being kicked out of their homes, in spite of being denied opportunities, they've risen like the proverbial phoenix. But what happens to the remaining? You still go on the street, you still see the reality of them begging, sex work. Has things changed on the ground? Yes, there are some people who are getting better opportunities, some people who are investing in upskilling themselves, but largely the situation on the ground continues to remain the same. And I have no shame or no qualm in admitting that today you go to a political discourse, and I'll say the 2019 elections, general elections, politicians called somebody else, oh, wo to aadmi bhi nahi, aur ab to hijre se bhi badtar hai. They have said such things.
Choose as an insult.
It's an insult. So I'm just saying that if elected office bearers of this country use this kind of language, which is in no sense of the word decent or accept, it is derogatory. It is in that sense, it's like a caste slur, right?
Right.
Except we did not have protections to say that don't use this word hijra against me or I will get you up.
Yeah.
Like it says, don't use the word, like a chamar or a dalit against me,
Right.
because we lack those protections still.
How do we now get hijras and transgender people in general back into the mainstream of society? Because if you look at Hinduism and you look at Hindu culture, they played quite a significant role. I mean, whereas the West has recognized transgender now, in Hinduism, it's been for 2000 years that non-binary gender expressions have been present. And some even had a demigod status. In our epics, we talk about people who transgress genders. You have Shikhandini, who became Shikhandi in the Mahabharata, and there's mentions of kinnars in most of the epics. So why then this stigma and taboo, and what do we do to get back into the mainstream?
Thank you for this question. I think, as a person who may be a practicing Hindu, I think when you say these things, it's very affirming that we all need to question ourselves, Anushka. What has led to this fall from grace, proverbial? Is it only the cultural influx of, say, the Mughals, the British, the Portuguese, the Dutch? Or is it our own radicalization of being an exclusive community? Now, a lot of things have changed in the last 300 years. One of them is being notified as a criminal tribe. Second, when the Mughals came in, they made us harem keepers and stuff like that. Now, a lot of people say, oh, they enjoyed status, but how many trans people can you say from history was book only, apart from this privileged few who made it to nobility status? Being a harem keeper was nothing better than being a chowkidar. So I think the reason why the trans Hijra Kinnar community has been off the mainstream is because the society disowned them. And it's very interesting when you see a parallel, like you see this trans people coming in when you have childbirth or when you open a business or marriage or something, and they are expected to come, go and disappear then. We ascribe some specific powers to them for blessing us.
Yeah.
And we only expect them to come and do it and go. And the amount that we pay them is, I believe, a fee for practicing ritual untouchability. You don't want to sit next to a trans person. So while you're saying what would we take to mainstream, I think an open heart, an open mind, and a sense of urgency to bring us to the mainstream. So like this scheduled caste and scheduled tribe have taken years of proactive legislation, proactive measures. We are yet to see that.
So just coming to the religious aspect of it, you personally, you follow Sufi Islam and Hinduism, and I believe that many from the Hijra community actually follow traditions of Islam and Hinduism. Some are even Christians. So can you explain that to us?
So for those who don't know me, I am actually born in a Catholic family. And many years ago, I took a formal initiation into Bhakti Marga. I follow Krishna. I changed my name to practice Sufism, but not an Islam. I don't follow Islam per se, but it basically practice the universal principles of brotherhood. To a certain part, Sufi Islam tend to be more accommodative. So you'll find trans people mostly associated with dargahs and festivals. So there are some trans people who follow Islam. There are many trans people who follow Hinduism, and then there are few who follow Christian, just like the demographic that we see. With change, people are now getting also religion agnostic. and also getting a choice to practice who they are. Like today, no one is going to tell me with a name like Zainab, you can't worship Krishna. No one can tell me that.
Right. Of course. No, I find it fascinating, this whole multicultural aspect of it. And I think that's something the rest of India can also
I
follow.
think if you want a lesson in Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb, you should come to us. In the Hijrah Gharana, at least I can say that, and in the Kinnar Gharana, we celebrate Eid, we celebrate Holi, we celebrate Christmas, depending upon who followers are.
That's an example for India. So now coming to the same-sex marriage case where you're a petitioner. All right. So interestingly, we interviewed renowned lawyer Mr. Mahesh Jetmalani some weeks ago, and he said he had started off by taking a brief for same-sex marriage, though he's a part of the BJP government. But he said, I dropped it because I found it unworkable, not unworkable in a moral sense or anything, unworkable from the legal sense, that it interferes too much with personal law, that the Same-Sex Marriage Act, there's no room for it to be interpreted by the court. It would be a matter for legislation, and the courts can't legislate. I mean, not trying to get too technical, but how would you refute these arguments? What's your side?
I'm just going to say what the Prime Minister said today at a rally in Madhya Pradesh. Can we have a country where you have two sets of rules for same members of the family? And so basically making the call for a universal civil code. And I'm just trying to use that logic again. What are we asking for in marriage equality? I'm not going to call it same-sex marriage because we are asking for marriage equality.
Marriage equality.
So let's look at the basics. Anyone, irrespective of their gender or orientation, should be able to marry the person of their choice, irrespective of the religion or culture or background that they come. Some of us tagged up petitions with the Special Marriage Act. My own case of marriage equality stemmed from the fact that I was already married to my partner in a civil union in South Africa, even when India had not decriminalized homosexuality. I got married to my partner on 14 January 2016 in South Africa in Cape Town.
Okay.
So even before we had the Section 377 judgment, I was already married. So more than validity, I think it's looking for options to legalize your relationship, to give some kind of social sanctity. Let me kind of debunk a myth. When the Section 377 judgment came in, the naysayers and the pessimists say, oh, now we will have these people running around the society and having sex in the open and, all sorts of things. But nothing like this happened. Will the Marriage Act make all LGBT people want to marry someone else? Unfortunately, no. Because some of us don't find partners, but some of us who want partners, who have partners, who would like their partners who would like to marry their partners at some point, want to emulate what you as a general society have been enjoying this privilege for millennia now. First, you told us that you were promiscuous, you were sleeping around with so many people. Now, when we want to be in stable, loving relationships and pass on these rights, privileges, and inheritance to our partner in a legalized manner, this is the only argument we have. And how can you have a set of two classes of people or classless people? You can't say, okay, you're a criminal, so you don't have any, you're not a criminal anymore, but you don't have the right to get. So my appeal to all of you is, irrespective of what the outcome of the judgment is, to open your hearts to the possibility that people in loving relationships only make society better.
No, absolutely. No, that's a valid point. I mean, of course, lawyers will say, the opposers will say there are legal hurdles and it's only an elite issue.
Malani, in his talk to you, did mention that there are so many legal hurdles. There are 150 statutes that need to be changed. But if there is a historic wrong which is allowing us to remain backward and not forming, wouldn't you want to chip away at those 150 statutes or say that these are gargantuan statutes, we will not touch them till doomsday comes?
Okay, I mean, but what's your hope? I mean, there's talk that the Supreme Court might stop short of actually granting, legal marriage rights.
So I believe in what Faiz says. Till now mi to nahi, naakami to hai, lambi hai gam ki shaam pe shami to hai. I think my community has always been an affirming community. irrespective of being derided, of being killed, murdered, just for who we are or who we choose to love. We've always believed in the judiciary, we've always believed in politicians, we've always believed in community, in the larger good.
Yeah.
So I'm always affirmative that it's a long battle. Lambi hai gum ki shaam, but shami to hai. We will make progress.
Wish you all the best in that. Couple of general issues when we go onto your personal journey. What's happening in the US? A lot of young kids under the age of 18 are going through sex changes, and now this gender fluidity has become a trend. Sometimes it's not even fashionable, which is in a sense not fair to genuine transgender people or people of the Hijrah community. It's not fair because some people are taking it to an extreme. Young kids having sex changes. I mean, do you think that should be allowed?
First of all, in India, we don't have any such provision. I don't think I sit on a policy think tank with the Govt of India and the National Council for Transgender Persons as a Western India representative. There is no policy proposal, there is no law that is telling us that under the age of 18, without parental guidance or supervision, there is going to be free hormone therapy or testosterone blockers or puberty blockers to allow the delay of onset of puberty or affirming gender surgery. Now, that is not on the cards. I will not discuss what happens in America, what happens in Switzerland. They can do what they want in their country. I'm just talking of a country like India where we have very rigid protocols in place saying that the person has to be a major, 18 years and above, has to complete at least 2 psychiatric evaluation to qualify for any hormonal therapy. These kind of fear and also lived reality as a woman to undergo surgery. Or a man for that matter. So I'm just saying that these are things that happen in a country where there is a different progression and lifestyle or whatever. And I will not use it to compare what is happening in India.
Quickly going on to your personal journey. So you were born a male in a Catholic family. Where did you grow up?
I was born in the Chawls of Parel, and so Parel in Mumbai used to house many mills. And I lived next to a mill in a small one-room tenement which was called the Chawl. I was born to a set of very economically modest parents.
And when did you realize that your gender identity?
I always knew I wanted to be a woman.
You always
I always knew. Some people ask this question, when do you realize? Can you realize it at 4, 40, 40 or 80 or 90? You can do it at all ages. As far as I remember because my parents couldn't afford to get me to an entertainment park or a mall or a movie theater, my mother used to bring me to Zoo Gardens. And Zoo Gardens has these, Air India cement airplane. And I used to love running on top and sitting in the pilot seat. And someone would ask me, what would you like to do when you grow? I would tell them I would like to be a woman pilot. But I always knew I wanted to be a woman. Did I know that at 43 I would be this woman? No.
But how did your parents take it?
Horribly. I was also very suicidal because of my dysphoria. So they actually took me to be prayed over through multiple churches, and they thought that I was possessed, and they did all sorts of things, which is what an average parent in the 90s would do. So they didn't go to psychiatrist or psychologist or took me to a shrink because one is they couldn't afford it. The second thing is they believed that faith could move mountains, but it moved the wrong kind of mountains.
So faith moved mountains in the right direction for you, for sure. So then, is it true that you had to leave home and then beg on the streets?
An unfortunate but a very real part of my life was that I had 2 elder sisters who were 10 and 8 years elder to me. So now we are in their 50s. And considering the huge age gap between me and them, and I started experimenting with my own gender identity expression. See, there were no affirmative counselors, there was no NGOs working at my time. So when my brother-in-law saw me on the street, he went and complained to my mother, and my mother and sister had to beg me to leave the house and go and stay somewhere else. Also moved throughout and go to another state. But
you had to go to another
I had to go to, because they didn't want to see me in Bombay like this, or any of our relatives.
So they saw you, your brother-in-law saw you in the streets as in?
Begging. Then they thought I got shame, dishonor, loss of dignity, but they did not see that what prompted me to do that. And unfortunately, this is the reality for majority of Hijras.
But you went to college, so is it after that you had to
During
the streets?
college, during my
On the
college.
streets?
Yes, in my second year of degree college, when I was studying management studies at Bhavan's College, I started getting involved in NGO, LGBT activism, and I started wearing a sari, and some people saw me, and it snowballed.
Okay, but then you started living with the Hijra community.
Yes.
And actually begging, and that's when you were noticed.
What is the other option?
Yeah.
You have to do what they do. You have three options. You dance, you sell yourself, or you go to shop and beg. I chose the one that seemed to be easiest at that point of time to beg. I still cannot dance. I tried with sex work, but it was not something that made me happy about it or whatever. So I mean to say that it's a different cup of tea for people who can do it and for people who can't.
I mean, that's quite something that you even ventured in that direction and had to try that. Obviously, you had to survive. You had to survive, right?
I wish there was a choice.
So then how did you get this role with the UN?
I think when I finished my college, I started working with Humsafar Trust, an NGO. I worked with them for several years. I started earning 2,500 and I left as the manager of all the outreach programs, and then started my journey with the UN system, which took a very long time. I worked with them for about 11 years.
And then you worked with KPMG and now.
Yes, when I came back in 2019, I joined KPMG as the HR Director for Inclusion and Diversity. I also was part of KPMG Global Services, and then I made a move to come to Mumbai and work with Pernod Ricard India.
Did you transition actually?
Yes, I transitioned 10 years ago.
Hormones?
No, I did a surgical transition. I took hormones at a very young age, and that's why perhaps the effect of it is much more. I underwent surgery when I was based in Thailand, so it was easier for me.
Okay. 3 mantras for success.
Set up yourself for failure, because when you fail, you learn hard truths in life. Second thing is, don't let anyone authenticate your existence. It is something that only you can do. So in an age where everyone is giving out certificates of nationalism, be your true authentic self. That's the best form of nationalism. And the third part is that irrespective of what people think you are, if you believe you're good, charge ahead. Because the very people who are going to be naysayers are the ones who will be clapping for you at the other side of the rainbow.
Quick rapid fire to end with. Who's your male inspiration in the transgender community in India?
It is Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi, who is my main inspiration, because she taught me that you could be glamorous and yet be someone and be totally unapologetic.
A celebrity in India would you join politics? Do you have political ambitions?
Yes.
You do. What's the most misunderstood aspect about the trans community in India?
We are useless, good for nothing, and just people who come at childbirth or marriage or dance. I think when you see us today, you see politicians, you see doctors, you see engineers, you see.
All right. What's the next legal petition you plan to take up?
The next legal petition is actually on anti-discrimination that I wanted.
If you are reborn, would you like to be reborn as male, female, or trans?
No, I would like to be reborn as a trans person only, because I think it made me so humble.
One term or name for transgender that you dislike the most?
No, I think I like all the terms, even in the kind of abuse that comes with it. I think that's fine. It's reflective of people, not us.
One lesser known quality or trait about Hijras that you would like to share with everyone?
I think we are great cooks and we are great caretakers, and we really believe in the concept of a family.
That was such an eye-opener of a discussion. It was really interesting to speak with Zainab Patel, and we wish her all the best, and she's doing such great work for the transgender community and for society in general. Stay tuned to Buzz by the Bay for more such inspiring interviews.